This cross-group phase is going to get very exciting, and as you can see on your screen, we'll talk more about that in a moment. NIP, in fact, picked red side as we jump into picks and bans videos.
Appears to be a trend. Teams want to try and get as many power picks as they can, and previously, ROCCAT on their first rotation were able to get Varus and Lee, but so far Ninjas in Pyjamas, they're keeping their bans the same. They said that it was not the draft that was the issue, it was the way in which they play, or perhaps their priority coming into it.
Well, definitely the case. It was a first pick Galio for NIP. Galio still available. Tom Kench now removed. That was a... it was not banned. It was actually played in the previous game. That's why I got confused. Zach will be the last one out. So, ROCCAT with Thresh open and available insta-lock. No surprise there.
Nope.
Wadid had some fantastic performances against Fnatic.
Very likely to see the Lee Sin as an answer from Ninjas in Pyjamas, along with the Galio. Still a very strong pick. I just want to see it top lane. Give it over to Profit. Let's see Nagne play some stuff that he can carry on. You know, like, I just feel like the best performances that we've seen from NIP are when Nagne is on a champion where he's not really the utility guy. It's actually when he's being a lot more active on the map and he's on more of these playmaking styles of champion.
Yes, but that's why you bring in the SKT substitute into your team to help you win games, to be the factor that facilitates it. That is the tip of the spear, not the tank making someone else the tip of the spear.
Who puts spears on a tank, Quickshot? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Have you seen Jarvan or Xin Zhao?
Good point.
Maybe a tank is a bit of an oversell on those champions, but Galio's still open and available. We're about to finish out the first phase of picks here for ROCCAT, and they're not actually going for that just yet. They're gonna lock in the Kog'Maw. Hyanan, definitely one of the more interesting AD carries when it comes to picks and bans.
I'm a little surprised he didn't go for something like the Xayah, who is up and available. He could have gone for an Ashe. Never mind, no he couldn't, it was banned. Caitlyn could have been an alternative. Pairs fairly nicely with the Thresh during the laning phase. But we're actually in for quite an exciting bottom lane setup because NIP are actually in a pretty good position in terms of their early power. With a Varus Braum, you actually have a lot of all-in engagement, and Braum is often considered a pretty good answer to the Thresh as well. So with junglers and bottom lanes both locked in for both teams, we're looking at mid lane and top lane bans. I wonder whether or not Ninjas in Pyjamas will look to ban away the Fiora, especially considering that right now she is 7-0, I believe, is her current record.
That's correct. You can count. Well done, Vedius. Vladimir was banned away along with the Fizz, so those mid lane options removed. Galio, once again, still open and available. Trying to remember how many times he's fallen down in priority. Can't think of a huge number of examples off the top of my head. And regardless, let's see whether or not these teams decide to even pick him. Syndra is the last ban. Another mid lane champion removed from the pool.
Looking like an Orianna right now. Early rotate. She is the best mid laner available, especially with a champion like Fizz off the board. You could go for a Talia, but then I'm expecting Betsy to answer with the Ori. We did see Betsy actually bring out the Orianna. I believe it was in the Fnatic series that we saw it from him.
Fortunately, it was a loss. 1-2, sorry, rather, let me just double check that. 2-3-1 were his stats by the end of the game. Profit's going to get his hands on that Rumble. So all of the mid lane bans, now we're going to find out what this results for both Betsy and Nagne as the last two picks.
Could be a Kled here for Faxi. I think he does pretty well. Or you could do the Jarvan too. Of course it's Faxi. What am I talking about? No, it makes the most sense. It was actually banned by Misfits multiple times against the ROCCAT squad because they respected him a lot. He brought it out a lot during Spring Split as well. And with the Orianna available, it makes a lot of sense. And now, given that Nagne's preferences hailing from the LCK, I'm expecting something like Talia. You should never be baited by the hovers, ladies and gentlemen.
No, Sparkle always hovers the Diana. Something that these guys do. What are some of the other options? You're expecting Talia. What else could Nagne run? The boring Victor is something that we've seen a few times in the past.
Hey,
Victor
is not boring. He's just different.
You know what? It is a matter of taste, and I am unfair to Victor. To me, I find Victor unentertaining.
That's fair.
So I will clarify that, and I apologize. I know you are mid lane. Let me rephrase. You attempt to play mid lane, Vedius. So I shouldn't tread where
Victor
I know
is also one of my very first successful champions I climbed to master with. He was a fun mid lane.
That tells me more about you than it needed.
Let's instead talk about Nagne's mid laner, Talia. Talia, great for roaming around the map. Really a heavy emphasis on playing towards the side lanes. The big thing about the composition from NIP is that they have no innate front lane tank aside from Braum, but given that he is support, he's not going to have a huge amount of resources to make him that big beefy front line. Whereas for ROCCAT, they do have the Gnar. In his Mega Gnar form, he can act as a very effective front line. Thresh is in a similar position to Braum, but it's very much about team fighting for the side of ROCCAT. There's a little bit more scaling in them than there was in the previous game. So I'm expecting a slower laning phase once again from the side of ROCCAT. And Ninjas, it's up to them to be more proactive in the early game this time. Shook on the lead, he wants to get that rumble ahead and start some action happening in the bottom line.
Well, that's a terrifying thought. More scaling than a Fiora and a Vladimir on the side of ROCCAT. They didn't even need late game. They didn't even need that in the previous matchup. I'm glad you talked about team fights. It's something I want to follow up on in just a few minutes' time. ROCCAT are looking for their first undefeated week of the summer split, and it would be NIP who they look to stomp in order to secure that.
And NIP are looking for their first game win. Currently 0-7.
At what point do we start talking about the loss streak? At what point do we start saying, will Origin streak be broken?
I was just about to say, we start talking about the loss streak when it gets close to breaking Origins, because I don't think anybody can even come close to that. And so far, just having a rough first week doesn't mean a huge amount. I think that we have to remember that this team of NIP sort of came together. Just kind of a mishmash of players, I feel. Not really, when you look at it, you kind of initially think Prophet is the star player. He hasn't had a huge amount of performances, and while occasionally we have seen NIP invest early resources towards him, he's not really been the active player that NIP have said, we're going to put you on a pedestal and we're going to make you our faker. We're going to make you our star. And instead, like, there's just been no standout performers. It's just been a bit of an underwhelming start, but this is a brand new team that's come together, so given that we're already week 3 in, I'm still holding out that they can grow.
I'm actually very glad you mentioned that. You do need to take into consideration the fact that NIP were only able to secure and finalize that spot around a week before the summer split started. Finding players, getting contracts, putting together a team, and then, of course, scrimming, training, language barriers, etc. There's a lot of challenges to overcome. But NIP need to start figuring out some of these mistakes because their rambunctious game 2s have not actually netted a game win yet. They haven't seen a Nexus fall that wasn't their own on stage. And it does become worrying when you see a team like ROCCAT, who was your direct competitor in sort of 4th in the group, now all of a sudden on the precipice of being tied with G2 at the middle of the table.
So, a lot of our eyes should be on Shook. This guy, in the past, had a bit of a reputation on Lee Sin when he was playing in Alliance, and now he's going for a level 2 gank in mid.
Well, let's see what happens. Sonic Wave falls just short. Betsy's able to just walk away. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Lee Sin for Shook go all the way back to Worlds 2014?
Would have been 14, yeah.
Yep.
The rise of Kaboom.
Oh, yes. And the perfect game for Alliance. Back when all that drama was happening. It's been a long time since then, and Shook, he's definitely not lost his early game edge. 6 out of 7 games he's helped pick up first blood. As you so rightly pointed out.
But then he never does anything, right? Yeah. Like, we see him get first blood, and he's like, all right, guys, have fun. I'll leave you to it.
It's currently the Joko effect, is what I like to call it. From the 2017 teams or players, junglers, that have an ability to read the early game, but unfortunately do not take the next step with it. Don't earn those additional advantages.
Yep. Bit of a shame, but at the end of the day, your role as an early game jungler is to facilitate the laners, but then you should really aim to work with your laners to then make stuff happen. But it is always a two-way streak, right? Like, it's never just, I as a jungler will do everything for you, and as a laner, it's not their responsibility to make everything happen too. So It's like a relationship. It's like casting, Trevor. You know, you can't always rely on me to do all the heavy lifting.
I can't. You're also tiny, so you can't do a lot of heavy lifting, to be fair. And I also find the fact that you are from Wales, you don't know a lot about the wider world. You know, there's a lot of our viewers that may not even know Wales is a country. That is part
That's
of,
true.
That
It's
is
a very
part
small
of the United
place.
Kingdom.
Yep.
Their language kind of sounds like a dad losing at Scrabble. Really random collection of sounds and whatnot. And I tried to get you to speak a little bit in your Welsh accent a while ago. It feels like it's been too long. So could you describe what we're seeing on screen in a Welsh accent? Because this is a very real thing. This is not made up.
I want people to bear in mind that the Welsh accent...
See, the crowd wants it.
It's very difficult to take the Welsh accent seriously,
Okay, tell you what. Explain this trade once it completes. Foxy and Profit.
Okay.
They're not going to get shit invading, so talk
This is the Welsh accent. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. What we're going to do now is we will look at the top lane matchup, right? You have Profit on this Rumble, who's very good at pushing naturally with the Flame Spitter, but with the range advantage that the Nard does have over his lane counterpart, it is very difficult for the Rumble to get in range. Therefore, often you'll just see a lot of farming and just a bit of skirmishing back and forth.
I'm very glad you did that. It's also important to note that James Stress O'Leary is also Welsh, and he is exceptionally proud to hear the Welsh accent on broadcast. He's actually joined us to give the thumbs up. Give us a high five there, James. There we go. And yes, that is the thing. You know, we like to learn. We like to teach people about other cultures, other interesting facets in life. And
I'm never doing that again, because it is very...
I will make you do that one again. Remember we talked about Shook's early game impact? He finds Wadid. Yonan's going to get caught up. Summoning his spells already blown. Wadid's going to get chased under the tower. And that's bloody brilliant, that is.
That is absolutely fantastic for the bottom lane of NIP, as we now see Brightstalker coming to the top lane.
Well, this time round, Shook not involved in first blood for his team. Wasn't necessary. Brightstalker should be able to run down Profit. Flash away from Profit. Leaped forward by Brightstalker, and that's one of the earliest kills that Brightstalker has picked up to bounce back to the bottom lane.
So, action all starts with NIP's bottom lane, noticing that Wadid was in the river and out of position. That means that the humble little dinosaur thing was left alone, and it was super easy for both Spraddle and Hiku to force an all-in engagement. You have to remember that Braum and Varus are very good at being able to lock down and just instantly kill a target. Usually you expect it around the level 6 mark, but when he's alone, doesn't have the safety of the Thresh, it's very easy to get that kill. Meanwhile, as we were talking about in the top lane match, we can get to that in a second, because you can see here, look, without Hyana, without the support, he realizes he also can't run up the river because he's going to get cut off by the Leaf Sin, so his only option is to run down. And then when you have the passive, and I love the positioning of the E as well for Hiku, putting it up in the point of the entire walkway of the Hogmaw, meaning that he was permanently slowed as he was trying to retreat.
And of course, Hyana and Wadid, both being flashless, are very juicy targets for Profit, Nagne, Hiku. Teleport Rumble, Weaver's Wall Talia, and two very, very gankable targets.
Yep.
For NIP, we need to see them group up and set up a play. Before that, Betsy and Nagne going to go for a trade. We've not looked at the mid lane a huge amount. There they are, trading back and forth. And talking about those teamfight KDAs, NIP, again, a team that is 0-7. For every 3 deaths they concede, roughly, they're able to pick up 1 kill.
Oof.
In team fights. So that is difficult, that is tough, but you saw in the previous game just how badly those fights can go when they start to fall behind.
Yep. It has not been ideal for NIP. Their coordination and their ability to win a lot of these fights definitely has not been going in their favor, and that was just the regular season stat. That doesn't take into account last game. Arguably, it's going to be a lot worse now as a result of that. But they're off to a pretty good start.
Yes, I mean, it's another even early game. NIP and ROCCAT were even for around 20 minutes in game number 1, and it was just one team fight that Pippity popped the game apart.
Stop that.
Absolutely blew it apart. I really thought, by the law of averages and numbers, there was a 75% chance of NIP winning today.
I mean, bear in mind, there's still 2 games left.
Potentially.
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 And let's just look at how we expect the game to translate from here, because Faxi has accrued himself an ever so slight advantage in the top lane, right? You can see that in terms of jungle presence, Pridestalk has been a lot more active early on as Nagne forced to use the heal.
They're going to throw out that threaded volley. Nagne took a lot of damage from Betsy's Thunderlord's autos and combos.
But yeah, just backtracking to this jungle presence that we've had from Pridestalker. Typically very low. Don't have time.
Ooh!
That hook was going wide. He decided to flash anyway. I understand why he would do it. Could have been a little bit more patient. So no summoner spells now available on Nagne. A possibility for a return gank later on for the side of ROCCAT. But keep trying to emphasize what we're expecting to see next, right? For ROCCAT, they need to just slow the game down a little bit. I'd love to see a TP play down bottom with Faxi. It's unavailable right now. With Man and Drake being on the board and the huge amount of vision investment that ROCCAT have had, I think it's worth leveling out this bottom lane once again, especially after the kill that HeQ got, and trying to make stuff happen with this Thresh and get the Cogmore rolling, given how reliant he is on these items.
Especially because both Yanin and Wadid very soon will have their flashes available. Ninjas and Pyjamas unable to make any plays in this bottom lane. Spritel and HeQ content to keep pushing it. We're getting close to 10 minutes into the game, and it feels like every time I look at the minimap, there is a lot of vision available. And there's literally, as I say, NIP are not making a play, they make a play. So Nagne, let's go. Weaver's Wall, goes rock surfing, sends out the passive. Seismic Shove is available, but not in range. Spritel's gonna throw out the Winter's Bite. Okay, what was cost here? Ultimate from Nagne. Teleport used and cancelled by Profit, and NIP traded for 50% tower HP. That was not worth it.
They didn't force any summoner spells out from Yanin or Wadid. The big issue that NIP had was that ROCCAT read the play from this control ward that was in the river. Neither Shook nor Nagne chose to check that place in order if there was any vision. And because they got spotted out, it meant that both Yanin, Wadid, Pridestalker, they could all respond, and Betsy could just keep pushing it. Betsy rather could just keep pushing in the middle lane. So just a little bit of oversight there from NIP, especially how often you do see a ward in that brush.
Yeah, and the wards that have been in this entire series really have revealed a lot of information. Pridestalker and Shook, they kept walking over vision for 10, 15 minutes of the previous game, revealing one another and pinging each other out. But Nagne continues to be the focus. No flash, remember. Shockwave catches him. Pridestalker makes it look easy. Welcome to the early game. 2-0 from Smite Snorker and MIP. They're not done yet, grouping up top.
Really good gank in the middle lane, but let's see if NIP can make something happen in the top.
Chain of Corruption needs to connect. Flash, and it does! Foxy gets rooted, gets burned down, gets knocked up, and Shook sends him to the fountain.
A lot of flashes were used and a lot of ultimates, but NIP get themselves the kill. However, ROCCAT are here to answer.
Yeah, there's no Shockwave available. Betsy used it to kill Nagne. NIP unable to get onto that tower yet, and Yanin is left uncontested in the bottom lane. This is going to allow ROCCAT to put a lot of damage on that tower.
3 members of ROCCAT made their way to the top side, and sure, NIP, it's great that you're able to get a kill, but a bit of pressure down onto Faxi to alleviate the amount of harassment that Prophet has been taking, but you don't get any objectives off the back of it. You don't translate it into any more map control.
So what do you think of the play?
Opened up Yanin.
What do you think of the play?
Like, the play itself was just a super hard commit, but I feel like that it was kind of telegraphed because ROCCAT knew well in advance, oh, their bottom lane's been missing for way too long. This play was super clean. Love the fact that ROCCAT makes something happen when there's no flash from Nagne, but just bear in mind, just look at where Thresh is, already in the river. He actually starts recalling, so perhaps ROCCAT didn't read the play at all. I feel like that when the bottom lane of NIP are gone for so long, you should expect this kind of thing to happen. But the fact that the root does land, the chain CC, the execution was very clean from NIP. But it's the fact that there was no deep vision investment from NIP. There was no foresight as to how ROCCAT could respond.
Yeah.
Getting a kill doesn't mean much if it doesn't translate into something else.
Yes, the amount of time invested in what you pay, the opportunity cost for that is problematic. And remember, Yanin was ganked early on. Well, not ganked, he was killed early on, rather, as Wadid caught Shook in the river. He was behind in CS, he was losing that lane. Now all of a sudden, Yanin's getting closer and closer to that Blade of the Rune King. He's got a CS advantage. And ROCCAT and NIP very happy. And I want to give some kudos to Pridestalker. This guy's had a marked difference on the early game. And he's punished members without flash, and right now the bottom lane for NIP has no flash.
And this reminds me more of the Challenger Series Pride Stalker that we saw that was playing for Misfits Academy. An individual that was very polarizing in his play. Sometimes he was super active on the map, and sometimes he was non-existent. And recently, since he's been in the LCS, he has been much more of the non-existent jungler, someone who doesn't really have any kind of an impact in the early game, who only invests into farming. But now we are seeing him be more active on the map, and what we want to see from him as an individual is this growth as a player to become a consistent, reliable player that ROCCAT as a team know they can get all kinds of playstyles out.
Yeah, and that's what Maxwell was alluding to earlier at the beginning of the day. How ROCCAT need to adjust to a new jungler, new communication, new macro. Taking some time. ROCCAT in the same time frame as NIP have already shown an improvement, steps in the right direction, and quite sizable ones. When you look at their come from behind win, which Fnatic somewhat allowed them to do, but then that game 3 victory over over Fnatic. ROCCAT were just phenomenal. Really, really good play.
Pretty sure Shook got spotted there.
Couple of pings. NIP.
Oh, they don't know.
Don't have the support.
They've got to read this. Like, it has to feel wrong.
Well, Shook ends up into the chain of corruption. We doubted that for a moment, but that made it work. Teleports also channeled and cancelled from both Foxy and Prophet.
That was the prime example of Braum, get ready to ulti my Lee Sin kick. The Lee Sin kick comes in, and Braum is expecting the person to go in a direction that he was not going in. And so you end up with this mishmash as Nagne
gets the heal and the flash to safety. Pride Stalker looks for the isolated damage. Tastes Nagne's fear. Equalizer not the greatest direction as Prophet is looking for a reply. 1-for-1, and the tower goes down in the exchange. First blood to NIP on that one. Prophet finally killed at the back end. Kills are even, NIP get the tower.
Now bear in mind, first tower blood did go in favor of NIP, so they actually sit on the gold lead right now, but they lost their mid laner, they lost their top laner, and they lost even more summoner spells. So many flashes were burned on the NIP side. This is a big window of opportunity for ROCCAT to start being a little bit more proactive on the map.
Pride Stalker, 100% kill participation as we continue to scale up through this early to mid game. And despite ROCCAT losing that tower, they are still farming very, very well, even to a head in all of their lanes. Even though it's marginal, it is very important because, as you mentioned during Picks and Bans, Vedius, this composition from ROCCAT can scale very well. These are the kind of fights they're looking for.
So that was another good ulti from Betsy. Nagne, he should have flashed a little sooner, actually flashed the top wave itself. Instead, he thought that with Prophet, he could get a turnaround kill. I think it's just greedy from Prophet. You lose a lot more from being able to trade 1 for 2 than you do from just turning back to top lane. Because bear in mind, look, a wave just hit his tower that he's going to lose. A second wave will have just hit his tower following. So the amount of experience and gold that he would have lost as a result of his death was far more significant than what he was able to gain.
And NIP concede the bottom lane tower. So that's the first of the game for ROCCAT. The focus is going to be the Rift Herald. This one will get secured very soon. No contest from the ROCCAT squad. Instead, ROCCAT shoving the bottom lane, shoving the middle lane. Vedius, again, every time I look at the minimap, I really feel like these teams are doing well with vision. There's a lot of wards being placed. It does have an ebbs and flows, of course. But ROCCAT, on the bottom half, NIP, as the observers are highlighting, a lot of shallow vision into the ROCCAT jungle. And that needs to get pushed deeper if they want to extend to one of those towers.
You always want to utilize the vision when you know the enemy team is either recalling, resetting, or recalling or resetting. Because if they're recalling, they're going back to base, they're spending the gold that they just bought. If they're resetting, it means that they're catching minion waves, they're pushing them out, they're just trying to make sure that the map is in their favor so that they can use that with the map pressure in order to get that team vision down. So these are the 2 windows that you want to utilize, and NIP right there saw that ROCCAT were resetting, were able to get some vision around the Rift Herald, picked it up for themselves, and it backtracks what we saw in game 1. Even though they lose the mid towers, we go for fighting mid.
They do indeed. Everything combos. Betsy's just dropped it. PQ's hitting all of those chains of... Actually, everybody in game's hitting their ultimates so far.
Yep.
We are seeing a lot of very good combo plays. The Rift Herald is summoned. And remember, Rift Herald into Orianna with an entire team as backup. That is a fantastic combo. There's no real defense yet from ROCCAT. This is going to be a secondary charge and a number of minions still left alive. NIP may get a second tower out of the deal. That is one of the best Rift Heralds we've seen. Seismic Shove is sidestepped as Pride Stalker leaps to safety. And NIP, just like that, 2,000 gold lead before 20 minutes.
This is the game 2 buff from NIP. They always seem to perform after warming up on stage. Really good gank onto the Orianna. Taking advantage of the fact, I believe her flash was down. But we will get a replay, we'll be able to properly break it down. This was a great utilization of the Rift Herald too, because ROCCAT, they had invested their AD carry into the top half of the map to take down that tier 1 tower. NIP knew that there would be no more wave clear available on ROCCAT, so they could utilize that Rift Herald to very swiftly take down all these towers.
And we're talking in game 1 about Hyanan and Wadid, constantly how they're the tool to unlock ROCCAT. They're the two that can spearhead the ROCCAT siege in summer. Hiku and Sprotle, two of the more controversial discussions when it comes to AD carry and support, but they're working very well in this game with this combination.
And I have to correct myself, Betsy did in fact have flash, but that was just great chain CC from NIP, and he didn't have an opportunity to use his flash. So again, want to emphasize, that was a very well-coordinated gank setup from NIP, and they very effectively get 2 towers down out of it.
I just really like this Rift Herald play as well. I mean, the fact they got the kill and they had Herald then makes it easier for the follow-up, right? So
look at the positioning of Sproul too. He walked through the enemy's bottom half of the jungle to try and zone away if you wanted to try and come up and defend the tower. So NIP, they had all the bases covered. They knew that there was only one angle that ROCCAT could come from, and even when they tried to, NIP were quick to react. So 2 quick towers, gold in favor of NIP. They did lose that mid-tier 1, though.
They did, as we were in the replay. It is over after 20 minutes. I'd like to take stock of the itemization. Banshee's Veil for Nagne, Morella Nomicon for Betsy. Phantom Dancer, Blade of the Rune King completed for Hiku. So a completed item ahead of his opposite number, Hyanan, who's just sitting on that Blade of the Rune King. And then, of course, Eye of the Equinox into Aegis Ruby Sightstone for the respective supports. It looks like Hyanan's going back to shop. I don't see how much gold he has. 1100, so he'll finish his Hurricane. Just hit that 2-item spike. And NIP will say, you know what, ROCCAT? You got a Mountain Dread. We'd like one too. Yeah, secure this one uncontested. And there's deep vision inside ROCCAT's jungle for NIP to work with. Where do the teams go from here? What are you looking at from either squad, Vedius?
Well, I think before we get to that, we have to backtrack a little bit, because what I wanted to see from NIP was Nagne roaming around the map and setting up his sign-ins for success. Hiku and Sprotle built up their own lead thanks to the way in which they played the 2v2 and how they were roaming around the map and finding picks. But Prophet and Nagne are still behind. 1-2-1 on the Rumble, 0-2-1 on the Taliyah. Now, the teamfight power of NIP is decent at this point. They have to play fight slowly, they have to play very heavily around things like the ulti of Faxi, and they have to maintain good vision control, because the optimal fight for ROCCAT is when they can get a TP flank off from a Mega Gnar Faxi, who can then just get onto the back line, and they can use their wombo combo to obliterate NIP.
NIP able to clear out the wards, want to avoid that wombo combo at all costs. It was team fights that cost NIP game number 1. We've talked about their kill-to-death ratio in team fights. 0.36 kills to every death. And for NIP, this game has been closer than many of the previous, but again, it's that rambunctious
well,
game
technically they have a lead, right?
There
So 1.2k in favor of NIP. In terms of control over the map, though, there's good vision investment from NIP in the bottom half, but the Baron is heavily in favor of ROCCAT. So NIP need to push out these waves. You can see Nagne clearing out top. Bot is already pushing in their favor, and now they can use this as a window to be like, all right, we can now see the big... No, this is risky, very, very risky from NIP.
This is indeed. Remember, Smite Stalker, the man that helped take down Fnatic with the play. The Gnar bar is almost max. Foxy's coming in and has the ability to make a game-changing play. Blast Cone not going to get popped just yet. NIP, they were able to use Baron to get the teleport at the cost of Prophet's Flash.
but they've lost mid priority. The advantage is that Faxi will lose a lot of farm in the bottom lane. ROCCAT will reclaim control over the Baron, but now they're just going to start it themselves.
Blast cone into the pit. ROCCAT all of a sudden
This
going
is
to punish
fast, very
NIP.
fast.
Teleports coming in for Prophet. Remember, it's a Cogmore with Blade of the Ruined King. ROCCAT take down Baron. It's gift wrapped. NIP were simply not there, and ROCCAT punished them.
Very decisive call from ROCCAT. They knew that NIP were going back to base. Prophet had just used his flash. They were not going to get there in time to challenge them, and ROCCAT, with an incredibly speedy Baron, take it down and reclaim control over the gold lead.
Well, I don't think Ninjas in Pyjamas were watching Team Solo Mid at MSI very closely, because that's exactly what MSI did. TSM did multiple times. Backed away, gave up control of the pit, and it was just rushed down so quickly. For a game where NIP were in the lead, they had the advantage, they had the ability to set up the map. Now let's see what Foxy can do. Gonna hop over that Siege minion. Don't think he's gonna escape that Braum passive. Goes Mega Gnar, gets a good stun. Boulder toss as well, a lot of damage coming out, but not quite so as level plays. Nagane as well. He's gonna get shut down, so it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. NIP running away as Pride Stalker tastes the fear of Shook. And the rest of the ROCCAT squad playing the map. Look, mid and top lane, ROCCAT knocking over towers.
Split push Yarnan at its finest. NIP, they invested heavily into the bottom side of the map. They did their best to try and get something back. If they could take the Baron off of the Gnar, then maybe they'd be in a good position to hold on to their base. But ROCCAT, they weren't going to go down easily. They pushed in mid, they found themselves a kill, they pushed in top, they're going to get another tower, and ROCCAT just continuing their dominance.
They are indeed. NIP with a little bit of a fight attempt here. Equalizer, try to cut off the retreat. PQ used that Chain of Corruption earlier onto Betsy, and Betsy flashed away from it. ROCCAT definitely know how to press an advantage. And again, it is against the weakest performing team in the group. Don't disregard that fact, but all credit to ROCCAT. They read the Baron play, they push NIP away, they get Baron themselves, and now there's exposed inhibitors already in the first Baron buff.
It's a little anticlimactic for NIP because they had the gold lead. They were in a good position. Sure, their solo laners were behind, but I was optimistic about their team fighting power. Like, they had more engaged tools this time around. They had a lot more ways in which they could better come out ahead in the fight. But we never got to saw that because they made a risky Baron call. They didn't respect the speed at which ROCCAT could take it, and then they end up giving all control over it.
And you know what? We've spoken so much about Yarnan and we did. We need to give some kudos here to Pride Stalker. He's in a favorable matchup in the Kha'Zix. He showed up in the early game. Still got 100% kill participation. Yep. Gets the Baron while under a little bit of pressure from NIP. Another tower falls, and like, this game has been all about Pride Stalker.
Both him and Betsy have really made a splash in this second game. Pride Stalker has been very active on the map, and with 3 levels above his jungle counterpart, he has demonstrated that he can have a bigger influence than that of Shook.
And we've got to go back to the discussion we had in the previous game. Cross-group play is coming up. Let's see how ROCCAT escaped the seismic shove. Going to be enough death sentence from Wadid, not finding his targets today. Was able to connect with Fnatic a little more consistently. Top lane inhibitor is down, middle inhibitor is about to fall. NIP are running out of objectives to defend. Death sentence onto Sparkle not going to be enough. Well, Shook is down. That's a 2-man play into the box. This could be the final fight. Yarnan takes down the tower and is spitting living artillery after living artillery onto the NIP backline. Betsy, by the way, has still not fired that shockwave. All 3 inhibitors are down, and ROCCAT are on the verge of an undefeated week. On the verge of tying G2 in the standings at 2 wins and 2 losses.
And it makes Group A a very exciting one to watch. NIP still struggling, but here we just see NIP doing their best to get something back. Wants to try and get the kick onto Yarnan. He has a very good flash. Pride Stalker has a lot of deeps. And, basic death.
Man, I'm so excited. ROCCAT plays Splice next week. Again, this is the first round robin wrapped after today for NIP and for ROCCAT. And for NIP, they play H2K. That's going to be an even... Let me rephrase this. That's potentially a more difficult opponent.
Yeah.
And for ROCCAT, man, imagine if they take down Splice as well. How interesting that could be. Sprottl just gets shot to pieces.
And just bear in mind, the reason why it's very exciting as a European fan too is because last split it was super one-sided. All of the top teams were beating everyone below them, and there was no real expectations for upsets up until ROCCAT suddenly went for that huge win streak. Now that we have this influx of Misfits, Splice, ROCCAT all stepping up, it makes this cross-group play even more important.
More competition gives us better quality teams.
Yep.
More exciting games. Well, for this one, especially if you're a ROCCAT fan, Brightstalker's looking for one last engage. He's trying to solo out Nagne on the side. Betsy's going to get the final hit. Shook is stuck in between ROCCAT. Nexus turrets are falling. Equalizer finally gets fired, and Prophet is just doing what little he can. It's a triple kill for Betsy, looking for the quadra kill. He needs one more kill. ROCCAT are going to try, and it's stolen. Scumbag Hjarnan denies the penta as ROCCAT kill the ninjas.
One auto was all he needed, and it was Hjarnan that landed it. Shame on you, Hjarnan. Shame on you.
Oh, great performance from ROCCAT. And I'm looking at the NIP faces right now. That is a difficult pill to swallow.
Especially considering the performance that they had against Fnatic and Misfits. NIP still yet to win a game. 0-8 is their current record. And the team, it's difficult to say, like, what do they improve? Because from week to week, we're still seeing similar issues where they're just straight up being outperformed.
Trying to think back to yesterday or day before yesterday's games, I think Ignor stole a penta from Power of Evil's Orianna. Today, Hjarnan stole a penta from Betsy's Orianna.
And it was only G2 that could give their AD carry the penta kill.
There we go. See, always Kings of Europe. Even able to donate that penta kill. Regardless, ROCCAT smash Ninjas in Pyjamas. They are rolling hot here in week 3. Undefeated. Let's send it to Dracos. Can you analyze that game? Sorry.
Someone else sounds a bit Drankos.
Yeah, a little too much to Drankos. All right, well, looking at this series, how it unfolded, I can think we can safely say pretty ROCCAT favored. Now, looking back here, I felt like this was a little bit of a closer game. Was that your guys' impression as well, or is it just me that felt like there was a little bit more parity, at least in the early game?
Yeah, early game, certainly there were a couple of plays that NIP were making that looked to put ROCCAT on the back foot, but this series ended way more one-sided than I think anybody thought of coming into it. A lot of people were expecting, like, oh, okay, even though ROCCAT did well the other day, NIP maybe might be a close opponent for them, but this just showed how much of a difference there is in the bottom of the standings still.
And for you, Maxler, what did you feel like was the defining factor between NIP and ROCCAT in this series before we get into our replays? Is there anything that really stood out to you in terms of team skill, coordination, individual decision-making?
Well, I guess it's mainly ROCCAT have like a game plan, and they have they just know how to play mid-late game. And NIP seriously looked pretty clueless when it got to mid-late. They were just, throughout the early game, just trying to make catches, and then from the catches, oh, we can get a tower here. But at the end of the day, they just got out macroed, simply.
And we want to look at one of the early plays that highlights that NIP are trying in the early game, but sometimes the setup just isn't quite right. Like, this is a good setup when you look at the champions only here. Look, they make a play up onto Hjarnan and Wadid, and you'd think that maybe you can go aggressive. They bring the TP down, and great, you can push onto the tower, but there's 3.5 minions under there. There is no minion wave coming in, and now you've just basically used 4 people's time and a teleport, and you get nothing from that play. Like, if you do that with a full minion wave or a cannon wave, you get the tower probably after it.
Yeah, or just don't chase the champions.
Yeah,
leave the champions there, I feel like, to hit the tower, use the wall, the zone off. So it seems like sometimes they have the right idea. The coordination just doesn't seem like it's always there. Like, these guys, maybe not enough experience together as a team or as individuals. But as we look at the second replay, you can see sometimes things do work out really well for NIP when they make these more aggressive plays, when they try to initiate things. But it's quite inconsistent, specifically in the mid lane, where we see big, huge factor here is the Rift Herald being up and available for this team, and then you combine that with the pick in the mid lane.
Yeah, so To be honest here, Betsy has flash up and he was just playing a bit too over-aggressive. I don't think he just expected him to just engage on them. And because he died here, they were able, Shook just put down the Rift Tower, they got the first tower, and ROCCAT were just not in position. Like, Pride Stalker goes to take Wolves, and they just didn't anticipate the fact that Nip would just go for the second tower since no one's there, you know? And yeah, it was just really, I don't know what ROCCAT were thinking here, but yeah, they just got 2 towers when really they should have gotten 1 for that kill. It just sucks, really.
Yeah, ROCCAT, you could see Cannon recoiling out of the top side a little bit after the exchange happened, and Faxi had to stay on the bottom side, and then nobody goes to defend the tower. So that was one of the times that it worked out for Nip in this game, at least. And, you know, that's probably the best Rift Herald we've seen in the week, because they didn't react to it.
And I feel like we're in this awkward position where we keep giving NIP these little accolades. Like, you guys have really good game 2s. You never win them, but you fight back a little bit more, and here you get a good Rift Herald, but there's still these giant glaring weaknesses. And Stress, I'm just going to give you that you can bandstand, you can go off. This play, I know, really frustrated you. Let's take a look at this Baron, because and the setup that goes along with it as well, because it is just not so great.
We're in the 2017 season, so you start Baron with Vision. Okay, that's still a risky play and you back away. At this point, you haven't overcommitted to this, you got the TP. Don't all recall and don't clear the Vision out. They haven't cleared out ROCCAT's Vision. ROCCAT know, oh, okay, let's just walk over to the Baron and, 1 control ward and we can rush this down with our Kog'Maw with Blade of the Ruin King. And look at where everybody from Nip is. This is one of the most basic things not to do around Baron, is recall with all 5 people. Before this, I believe it's Sprattle had 3 wards in his inventory, had a sweeper available, didn't clear ROCCAT's wards around the pit. Then he just...
I love this from Maxler. All right, you got the backup. Okay, so Maxler, I mean, I don't think it's just Stress thinking that this play was poorly executed in the end. Like, what do you think is the biggest thing you change here if you're NIP and you approach Barons? Is this just like big stupid issue? It's never going to happen again. It's so bad. Like, what is the issue here?
They just rushed it so hard. They just missed like the most crucial steps because they saw Gnar going bot, right? And Rumble can't match him, so they thought to themselves, "Oh, Rumble's bot. You know, let's just force TP. You know, just do the Nash. Why not?" But really, they should have just. They had enough time. They could have cleared ROCCAT's Vision, pushed one more wave, got deeper vision, and then they could do whatever they want. They can start the Nash, and since they had a life drake, they could maybe finish it, since ROCCAT had to be pushed back if NIP get deep vision, or they can just sit at Baron Pit and try to turn, stuff like this, right? But right there, they lost mid control because they just started Baron, Vaxi TP'd, they ran towards top side, they lost mid control, and for some reason they reset. I don't know what that was for, but they did. And not only did they lose mid control and ROCCAT just got full vision, but they just ended up just taking Baron for free.
And those are the issues that you're probably going to have the time to look back on that you know are glaring weaknesses. Hopefully the team will be in agreement, but as much as we saw, you know, mistakes punished here on the side of NIP making a lot of mistakes in the course of the series. ROCCAT was there to punish them over and over again, and one player who was at the center of that was Pride Stalker in the series. Much better performance coming into this series than we've seen in the past. He will be our player of the series. And I gotta say, this looks like better performance from him overall, Maxler, compared to what we saw when he was just smiting Barons away on the Warwick. Wasn't always as useful.
Well, I mean, this Baron they just did, he kind of did smite it away. Like, Shook could, if it was me, Shook would have got that Baron. But yeah, this game for sure, he had more of an impact. You know, he actually ganked. He got vision and ganked when normally this guy just puts vision and just sits in his jungle, you know. But I didn't really like him on Warwick the other day. Even though it kind of suits his style of just being in the jungle and farming, I think it's just a lot better if he's on Kha'Zix and in a winning matchup and uses the fact when they have a winning mid laner, just uses it, and he did it really good this game.
Well, we'll see if that continues to be the trend for ROCCAT, but for now we're going to get more on that series from Pyra, who's standing by with ROCCAT's top laner.
Thank you very much, Dracos. And yeah, 2-0 on the day and 2-0 on the week, so congratulations, Foxy.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your team's growth because I talked to Yarnin earlier in the week and he was saying that it's been a bit of a climb for you guys, but to go from week 1, facing off against a G2 sub squad, to now having an undefeated week, do you want to tell me a little bit about how the team has grown in those few short weeks?
I mean, we had some struggles in the start, obviously, because we changed our jungler, and that's pretty important position to fill in, you know. So in the beginning, of course, it was a bit shaky, but I think the guy is pretty confident right now. He's like, he hits every smite, so that's a good sign for that. I think we're doing pretty well right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like you're settling in, and you're going to be going into cross-group play next week and starting off facing the likes of Splice and then Vitality, so on and so on. How confident do you feel right now as ROCCAT to face off against the other teams in the other group?
I think like we as players are not scared of any team right now. We weren't last season. I mean, we could beat every team, you know. We could beat G2, who has had like almost a perfect split. So I think we don't have like that mindset of being scared. I know they're really strong teams, you know, but we can still beat them, obviously.
Wow, okay. I mean, I like that confidence. Always a possibility to take them out. Now, you specifically kind of made a big splash coming into the European LCS towards the end of last split. The Foxy Taxi became kind of the tagline. And you're still playing this NAR, but not a lot of other people are. Can you tell me why?
I mean, I just like split push champs, obviously, so I just pick NAR into champions that I can counter, right? I just pick it into Rumble, for example, or a tank, and NAR is like, I just like the champ. I don't know what to say about it.
Hey, if you like it, you can make it work for yourself. Now, you're going to be facing off against a lot of other strong top laners over in Group E, you know, the likes of Oda Wamne, Viz Chachi, these guys. Who are you looking forward to face the most?
Not really looking forward to any of these matchups. Like, I mean, they're all really good players, but I don't think any of these players like stands out the most for me. I respect them all, so I just hope I can do well against them, that's all.
Okay, respect them all. Very, very good words. Now, thank you so much, Foxy, and congratulations once again on your 2-0 week.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to be it for us for now, but don't go anywhere. When we return, Vitality taking on H2K. We'll be right back.